Let me introduce this frog nest. You alone can get him singing. He's all puffed up, wanna be your king. Oh, you can do it. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Lady, kiss that frog. Splash, dash, heard your call. Bring you back your golden ball. He's gonna dive down in the deep end. He's gonna be just like your best friend. So what's a little kiss, a tiny little touch? Ah, he's wanting it so much. I swear that this is royal blood running through my skin. Oh, can you see the state I'm in? Kissing better. Kissing better. Get it into your head. He's living with you, he sleeps in your bed. Can't you hear beyond the croaking? Don't you know that I'm not joking?
Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Smith, which is ironic because I'm doing an interview today with Eric Johnson, who for 6 years has published and edited the Missoula Independent. I am not the Jeff Smith of fame and fortune, but the other Jeff Smith. And I want to welcome Eric to the show, and we're just going to go just easily and slowly through the interview process. This is one of 6 interviews on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock. So tune in and watch. So Eric.
Hi, Jeff.
What's new?
Well, there's a lot. I'm getting some change in my life right now. Moving back to California, moving to the town that I lived in before I came here 14 years ago.
Santa Cruz.
Moving to Santa Cruz.
Tell me about Santa Cruz.
You know, it's kind of the Missoula of California. It's the strange little town. It used to be a logging town and a fishing town, and it still is a little bit. It retains a little bit of the culture of those two industries.
So it's on the coast then?
It's on the coast. It's 70 miles south of San Francisco. It's the northern tip of the Monterey Bay. Monterey Bay is a big open bay.
Yeah.
If you go north from Santa Cruz a half a mile, you're at sort of rocky north coast ocean. If you go south a half a mile, you're on the big wide open bay beach. Redwoods, a couple of hours from the Sierras, 2 hours from San Francisco. It's a nice place.
So a guy could do worse than go to Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz is probably my second favorite place in the world. If I can't live in Missoula, I guess I'm pretty happy to live in Santa Cruz.
And you said you lived there 14 years ago. How long did you live there?
For about 9 years.
9 years.
I went there right after I got out of high school and lived up in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Right.
Putzed around, went to school a little bit, learned to fix cars, ended up working as an auto mechanic and having a baby.
Volkswagen, right? You were Volkswagen?
Started out with Volkswagens, yeah. Did mostly Volkswagens. Had to expand into other varieties and brands.
So Santa Cruz is the second best, and I suppose Missoula is the first.
I like Missoula.
Yeah.
I love this town.
Yeah.
This town's been good to me.
So what are you doing in Santa Cruz?
I'm going to be the news editor of a weekly newspaper there, the Metro Santa Cruz. I'm also going to be the associate editor of Metro, which is a newspaper in San Jose, California, which is just 30 miles east of Santa Cruz.
So you're going to wear 2 hats?
Kind of, yeah. Well, the paper's owned by the same both papers are owned by the same man. He owns 9 newspapers in Northern California. 3 of them are alternative weeklies, like the Missoula Independent. Pardon me. And then he has 5 or 6 of these little community papers that are kind of like a California version of the Phillipsburg paper, just small town weeklies. But the small towns are Cupertino, Saratoga, kind of Silicon Valley, very kind of shishi California towns.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. But this isn't an alternative weekly then?
Yeah, Metro Santa Cruz is, definitely. And Metro San Jose also is. And he also owns one called the Santa Rosa Independent, which is just north of San Francisco. They're like the Independent in a lot of ways. They're bringing me there to make their newspapers more like the Missoula Independent. Their newspapers are more along the line of a classic alternative newspaper. They have a lot of attitude. They're really fun. This guy, the editor of the San Jose or the Santa Cruz paper, who recruited me to go down there, was the editor of a series of weeklies that published in Santa Cruz while I lived there. And it was his newspapers that really kind of made me fall in love with weekly newspapers.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
While you lived there?
Yeah. I mean, I would pick up his paper every week, and I just thought, you know, this is great. This is fun. He really was able to capture what that town was about in a way that...
You used the word attitude. Talk about attitude. What is different about an alternative paper, and what is that attitude? I know it draws me to it. I really love reading the attitude rather than the passive kind of journalism.
There's a variety of different things that are going on in the alternative press. I think that 25 years ago, when alternative papers first showed up on the scene, because of the politics of that era, they were all, or pretty much, very hard-hitting. They were aimed at a young audience, so they had a lot of kind of rock and roll attitude to them.
So we're talking early 70s.
Late 60s, yeah, late 60s.
Vietnam era newspaper.
Right. And of course, because of that, there was also a lot of anger expressed in the alternative papers.
Yeah, the word that was used a lot at that time was counterculture.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't just a subculture or... so that's what alternative papers were about, and they continue to be that way. But I have my own attitude about what alternative papers ought to be doing, and it's a little bit different from what most alternative papers in America are doing today. Because I feel like we almost should lose the word alternative. We almost should try to, not almost, we definitely should try to mainstream the papers, only in the sense that we want to bring in, we should try to bring in more readers, try to really expand the market and the numbers of people that are reading papers. In Missoula, we were really able to do that because we had to. It's such a small town. Eric Cushman and I, and all the people that worked at the Independent, we ran the only successful alternative paper in a town as small as Missoula. By far, the smallest community in the country that had an alternative paper. And the only way we were able to do that is by making the paper, by having a different attitude than most alternative papers.
Yeah, you had a different attitude, but you were still really open to printing hard-hitting articles. You know, for instance, you printed that one propaganda as art that I did on Gene Bernofsky, and I was really surprised that you went for that, because that made no bones about what side of the fence it was on, and really cut hard at name names and tried to kick a little butt there.
Well, you ought to. I mean, that's what newspapers ought to do. That's what newspapers always did in this country. Not just alternative papers. That's what American journalism is all about. Always has been. Really, what happened is that the daily papers, the corporate-owned daily papers, took some road about 20 years ago, or more, 30 years ago, where they really became all about business and not about journalism so much.
So you're going back to the traditions of newspapers.
I think so.
Then
I think so.
And then if Santa Cruz is bigger than Missoula, and Missoula was the smallest alternative newspaper community, how big is Santa Cruz?
It's about 100,000, something like that.
So roughly double.
Right. And then it's also not as geographically isolated as Missoula. There are a string of communities running south of Santa Cruz. But the Metro Santa Cruz, the paper I'm going to go to work for, doesn't really, at this point, doesn't even distribute to the South County. And I'm going to try to change that. I want them to. I'm going to try to help the paper grow.
Talk about how you were recruited. Did you apply, or did you make phone calls before? This guy called you up and said, are you interested in in coming down, looking at this newspaper, this job?
Yeah, well, actually, his girlfriend is a writer, wonderful writer. Her name's Christina Waters. His name is Buzz Bizarre. And she emailed me a column that she had written about, I think it was about Valentine's Day. Very funny. We ended up running it in the Independent. And at the bottom of the email, she wrote a note that said that Buzz was interested in talking to me because he needed a news editor. And I emailed her back, well, thank you very much, but not really interested. And we know each other from conventions and whatnot, so I wrote a kind of a funny email back to her, and it started this correspondence. And I'm pretty sure that I was saying no. I think I must have been leaving the door open because every time she emailed me back, she restated that they wanted me to come down there. And then at the same time that this was going on, strange things started happening at the Independent, and things that were making me feel very unhappy. And one of those things was that we went to a meeting with the paper's owner, and Eric Cushman and I went to this meeting, and it was painful, and it wasn't productive, and it felt weird. And
so this is February.
This was happening in February, and I believe it might have been January, actually, Jeff. And I didn't even want to go back to the office. I had Cushman drop me off at my house, and 20 minutes later, honest to God, 20 minutes later, the phone rings, and it's Buzz. And at that time, I told him, well, you know, I'm starting to feel a little bit interested in this. And I hear him, yes, yeah, I hear Christine in the background. They're both excited to hear that I'm even thinking about it. Yeah. And so they flew me down there and rolled out the red carpet, took me to a San Jose Sharks game, and
all right,
out to restaurants.
Right.
And it felt good.
And then you came back, and things still felt weird, or felt weirder.
Weirder,
at
yeah.
The Independent.
Yeah, things continued to get. It's hard. This is only a few weeks ago, and it's hard for me to really sort it out in my head. I'm pretty sure that there was nothing I could have really done to correct the course of events.
Yeah.
It felt like there had been decisions made that I was certain were, and I'm still certain, were really, really bad decisions. And there was nothing I could do about it, so it seemed really clear to me that there was no place left for me at that paper.
Was there a threshold where you finally crossed over? Was there one particular phrase or incident that took place that you finally said, yes, I'm out of here?
Not really. I think that, as I say, there has not been good communication. I don't know what really happened. I do know that the newspaper's owner made the decision that he was going to fire my partner, Eric Cushman, for absolutely no good reason. There's no reason for it. And that was the thing that I couldn't abide. There was no way I was going to stay there and put up with that, because it was also symbolic to me that if that was going to happen, then there was no hope for the paper to remain what I wanted it to be. It was, I still can't get over it.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of stunned by it.
I want to get into that a little bit more, but I also want to talk a little bit about what you accomplished at the Independent. You know, 6 years is a long time, and you know, you and I worked together at the beginning to get this idea off the ground. And
You sure did.
I can remember you and me, and who was the third person that went down to Denver with us?
Deanna.
Deanna Sheriff, yeah. Packed into a car late one afternoon and drove all night to go to Denver to the convention of alternative weeklies in Denver.
That
had
was
a great time, didn't we?
That was a great
That was really fun, yeah.
We camped out in that house that your friend was trying to sell.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, my friend knew a real estate agent, and the real estate agent was kind enough to unlock this vacant house, and we stayed in the house.
Rolled out our sleeping bags, yeah.
That was fun.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
I learned a lot that weekend, and also it really kind of reignited the passion that I had for this idea of starting a weekly newspaper.
Yeah. You know, we go back even farther than that, even further than that. We go back all the way to, you know, I don't know, it's probably late 70s now, huh?
No, it was, I think you and I met down at Vicky and Kalijah's place in Stevensville.
Yeah.
Like in '82.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was the first time I met you, and you started talking about an alternative newspaper for Missoula And
Right.
you know, which a lot of people talk about stuff like that, but I was amazed at how you had polished the idea. You had a name.
Right.
You had you had the energy. It seemed to me you were really enthusiastic about it, and so I signed on.
Right.
Do you want to talk about some of these,
Sure.
these magazines?
I can't believe you've got those.
Yeah.
I haven't seen those in a long time.
That one was called the Missoula Muse. And this is when did that? What were the years that the Missoula Muse ran?
86 and 87. Yeah, so it took a while to get it going from that first time we talked.
And so for about a year? Did it
Year
go?
and a half.
I'll let you look at these things. And
This was a good one. This guy Gary Bates, this sculptor.
we did stuff like this, and this is Stone Container. You know Stone Container. It's always in the news. And then things like fashion, Missoula fashion, mid-'80s fashion.
That was
Remember
hilarious.
taking those
Look at that
pictures?
guy's tie. That was
Mark
great.
Ahern?
Yeah. I just heard from Mark O'Hearn. He's out in Seattle now in art school.
In art school.
Yeah.
And then this is the lifestyle stuff that you're...
That was the last one, I think,
Was
wasn't
it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was some fun. Oh, here's Eugene Chadbourne. There's Sean Gant. Yeah. It's pretty ugly, but...
That started on your dining room table. That took over your apartment, right?
Yeah.
You had a
Yeah,
big
we actually had a
ping
ping
pong
pong
table.
table that we'd roll out.
And cutting and pasting. That was before electronic publishing.
It sure was.
So what's it like to look back on those? Are you proud of them? Are they
I feel really blessed. I feel really lucky that I've been able to do this thing for so long. I mean, it was 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because the first issue of the Muse came out in March of '86, and the first issue of the Independent came out in March of '91, and my last day at the Independent was in March of '97.
Wow.
Almost to the day. Eric and I were fired the day before would have been our 6th anniversary. It
There's
feels
a little bit of
like,
sadness in that, but there's a sense of
Yeah.
of some kind of completion or whole that I hear coming from you.
Maybe. It's, like I say, I'm still a little raw from it. I'm still a little tender from it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be able to look back on it and feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm right now feeling burned and still upset and angry that things didn't go the way I had wanted them to go. I swear to you, I wanted to continue doing this for a long time. I wanted to see the Independent become a real institution in this community. And newspapers should. A newspaper gets better with age. It develops an institutional memory. It develops more integrity over time. And that's what I had hoped would happen with the Independent.
Well, talk about this one.
That was a good one. Well, now, it's funny because we were talking earlier, I hadn't thought of this, but we were talking earlier about how Vietnam played such an important role in the birth of the alternative press in general. The Gulf War was a really crucial thing for us because you probably remember that that really accelerated our efforts.
This is the first issue.
That's the first issue of the Independent. That cover story was about the peace movement that had erupted and taken hold of Missoula during the Gulf War, which was an amazing thing. You remember that. It was a powerful thing that happened.
I thought somebody was going to get killed because there were people who were demonstrating in front of the county courthouse, and it was slippery and snowy, and there were other people driving big cars, and they were going close to the people who were protesting the war. And I can remember the mayor out in the street trying to separate the two factions.
That was an amazing piece of politics that happened that night. That was the night the war broke out, and people were really upset. And because of the fact that it was perceived by the protesters as a war, they had the "No Blood for Oil" chant and sign, and so that there was a lot of anger directed at automobiles. That's what people decided, that in order the best way to protest this would be to block traffic downtown.
Well, let's look at this first issue. You've got, the war, and you've got Champion Mill.
Look at that. The former Champion Mill.
Right. This is the one that became. What's the name of that company that's running the mill out
Stimson.
there? Stimson. Yeah. And you've got news on the Earth First journal that was being published in Missoula.
A strike, a worker strike at Kinko's.
Right.
And there's that's a great headline, Jeff.
Dan the Man.
Yeah, Jeff Smith on Dan Chemist.
Yeah.
A Mark O'Hearn photograph, too.
Yeah, you still owe me some money for that one. And the center, the entertainment. Entertainment was always a big part of your publications. At least half, maybe more than half, went toward entertainment. Talk about that.
You know, most of my efforts as a journalist go into very serious issues, and I have very deep and profound and highfalutin ideas about the importance of journalism to democracy. Everybody that's ever worked at the Independent has poured a lot of effort into serious news coverage, but I don't kid myself that that's the main reason people pick up the paper. The main reason people pick up the paper is to find out what to do on a given night. They want to know they've got some time to kill, or they want to see what fun stuff is going on in town, and we make it easy for them to do that by giving the paper away. It's a great little trick, and that's why people pick it up, I think, is to find out what's going on. And while they've got it in their hands, I try to trap them into reading about things that I think are more important. So as a result, we recognize, I recognize, and most people that work in the alternative press recognize that that's something people really need and want. And it's not something that the dailies do a very good job of.
Yeah.
That's true in most towns. In Missoula, the Missoulian does a pretty great job of it.
Well, and McAnally was editing
Especially
the Entertainer. Yeah,
that
was really
that
great.
paper rocked.
Yeah.
And it's still pretty good. I mean, they still have Brian DeSalvatore and Dean McNamee. They have great writers. The people that, Vince and everybody that works. The Entertainer is a good publication. So,
but the Independent was always better, and it was always better because it had a spark to it. You know, the entertainment coverage, and I think what you did was that you found writers who were young and really eager and had point of view, really wanted to be published, and you encouraged them. You encouraged young writers. Talk about that. How did you went through a stable of writers that probably must number over 200 people over the course of 6 years.
Maybe, yeah. The writers specifically, and everybody that I've had the opportunity to work with at the Independent, that really has been the best part of it for me. I mean, it feels good to have created this thing that the community supported and liked, and there's a lot of things about what I did that make me feel good, but the best of it, for sure, is the people I got to work with, and it is true that I feel really lucky. I don't know how it happened. Well, I guess I do know how it happened. If you give people an opportunity to write and to do their best work, they will. And if you pretty much encourage and demand it, if you let people know that that's what you want, you really want them to dig down deep and give you everything they've got, people will do it. And Missoula has been really lucky in that the Independent has had incredible, great writers.
And they've gone on from there, right?
A lot of reporters came to the Independent for their first job in journalism and went on to big papers, good papers. 2 reporters on Pulitzer-winning papers.
You had a guy covering the Republican National Convention.
Oh, that guy, Mark Herman, is incredible. He's a great, great writer. He was on MSNBC during the presidential campaign. He was kind of picked as the Gen X, as the young, sparky analyst, and was on with Coburn and some other people. He's a smart man. He's a great writer.
And then I noticed last summer you had Nate Schweber, who was the editor of the Hellgate paper.
The Hellgate Lance, yeah. Oh, Nate is great. He's got a great future ahead of him. Everybody, Andrea Barnett, who probably worked at the Independent longer than any other reporter and is there now, is actually one of the 2 editors now, is incredible, excellent reporter. Dan Occo also did great work over the past several years. He and I are kind of at odds with each other right now, but that guy was great. Zach Dundas, young guy who's there now doing the calendar, is going to be, and Dan Nalen, who's in Helena now. The people there now, the people who've been there forever.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, the thing about you and during that whole course, and from the very beginning, was that you always talk a good game. You know, you can talk up the paper, and you have a real fire in the belly about journalism and alternative journalism, and you communicate that to a writer. And you know, pay is less important than feeling like you're doing good work. You're doing important work.
I think for journalists it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think people that go into journalism aren't really doing it for the money.
Yeah, yeah. But you always seem to walk that line between, am I going to pay him or not pay him? Will we have enough money this week? You know, you might be working for free. You know, and yet you still put out incredible stuff, incredible articles, and with enthusiasm and an attitude and that sparkiness that you talk about.
We did, didn't we?
How'd you do it?
I don't know.
Magic. Smoke and mirrors.
You know, it's true. I mean, we did publish The Independent for 6 years and lost money every single week. But, you know, there are a few exceptions. There were some weeks that we made some money. There might even have been some months that we made some money. But, and I'm talking about a lot of money. I mean, it costs right now 40, 50 grand, oh, no, $30,000 or $40,000 a month to do what The Independent is doing, or to do what it was doing right before everybody left, right before everybody quit and got fired. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it was magic. It was magic.
Well, you know, it was a lot of hard work. It was much too hard, actually. And even the other Jeff Smith was very crucial in allowing The Independent to right for years and years. He was one of the owners of the paper. He supported the paper financially. For business reasons, for the most part, but also for, you know, the best reasons, because he wanted to. Yeah. I think, I don't know what the hell happened, but and you know, we had the support of all the community of business in this town. Was very supportive, and again, for good reasons. We were a great advertising vehicle for them.
You had some really steady advertisers.
Yeah. From
the first issue all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah, that was important. We had a good relationship with the local bank, a real good relationship. Hal Frazier, who's the vice president at First Security, that guy is a hero. I mean, people, you ought to get Hal in here if you can.
Are we ready to wind down for an intermission now? Tell me, got 2 minutes to intermission? We're going to break here, and Eric and I are going to rest for a little bit and let you watch David Byrne and the Talking Heads for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk to you later. And Nate, you can just cut into that video. Eric and I will keep talking, and just tell me when you cut into that video, and we'll take a rest and maybe have another cup of coffee and get back to you in about 5 minutes. So, are we going to cut now? Okay, good.
biggest fool of them all. I wanna know, can you tell me I love you? Take me to the river, drop me in the water, drop me in the water, let me hear my river. Take me to the river, in the water, drop me in the water. Wow. Take me to the river, drop me in the water. Take me to the river, drop me in the water. Right here, up there. Drop me in the I'd like to introduce the band by name. This is Bernie Worrell. Jerry Harrison. Edna Holmes. Lynn Mabry. Chris France. Steve Scales. Alex Weir. Tina Wayman.
Well, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed my friend David and his band. Go back a long way. I'm talking this evening with Eric Johnson, who is leaving Missoula after publishing the Missoula Independent for 6 years. So welcome back. Stick around. We've got about a half hour left, and I hope you get a chance to spend some time with us. So, what do you want to talk about now?
Well, during the break we were talking a little bit about one of my favorite subjects. You know, everybody, a lot of people experience journalism. They read newspapers, they see the news, but I don't know to what extent people think about how it happens or you know, the theory behind it. A lot of people just kind of take it for granted. There it is, you know, the weekly paper, the daily paper. It's just there. But it's something that I've thought a lot about.
Shut the door.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah,
lost my train of thought there for a second.
They shut the door, we'd be okay, huh?
Could you guys shut the door?
Shut the door!
We were talking earlier about what it means, how the alternative press is different from mainstream journalism. That in some ways it's a return to the old-fashioned way of doing newspapering. I've completely lost my train of thought now.
Well, we're talking about politics, you know, objectivity. You know, I read the mainline press and get nothing out of it. You know, I mean, there's a standard way that if you have something controversial, then you call up somebody who is part of the establishment. You get an equal quote. You balance the story, and you end up with most of the time pablum. You know, without point of view, without a real strong perspective on what's right and what's wrong, where we're going as a culture. Mm-hmm. You know, it ends up being you get done with the story, and you think, oh man, you know, I wish I'd stayed asleep, you know.
If you can make it through the story, and most people don't. You know, daily newspapers are losing readers horribly, and they blame the readers. They blame people's attention span, and they blame television, and they blame everything except themselves. For the most part, I think daily newspapers aren't read because, I agree with you, the way they do it is boring. And the reasons they do it are not good. I mean, we're told that objectivity is this ideal that journalists strive for in order to be able to be fair and present the news accurately. I think objectivity is there so that advertisers don't get pissed off. It's there so that readers do not, it's an effort by journalists to not offend anyone. And by trying to be completely inoffensive, they refuse to take a position. A reporter will know absolutely what's going on and will not tell the readers, which is the opposite of what they should be doing. I like objectivity. I think as a journalist, it's a line you want to walk. You want to go into the story and be as objective as you possibly can while you're reporting the story, which means while you're gathering information. Once you figure out what's going on and it's time to tell the readers about it, being objective is, you should not have to be objective. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes the story is, there's so much gray area that you really can't find out absolutely what's going on. And in that case, really all you can do is say, he says this, she says this, and present that to the reader. I think you only should do that as a default mechanism when you absolutely have to get something in the paper and you don't really know exactly what's going on.
Okay, well, as you look back over the 6 years, what were the best stories that you remember? What comes up first when you think about the Missoula Independent?
I don't know if I could do that.
Well, you wrote a lot of them. You were writing about Cal Greenup up the Bitterroot.
That was great. That was as a reporter, that was a high point for me. I'm an editor first. I also love to report and write news. That was a great day. I mean, that was Charlie Lyman and I, and Betty Tomlinson came down with us. We reported that story in one day, and I wrote it that night, and it was in the paper the next day. And
Cal Greenup is the, I don't know whether he's a member of the militia, but he ran a game farm up south of Hamilton, and the state Fish and Game wanted to regulate him, and he refused, and the thing just deteriorated until he had armed supporters, and he lit out, right? They couldn't come on the land to arrest him, and then he lit out for a while.
Well, they couldn't come on the land to arrest him because he was threatening to kill them. He was a self-styled member of a militia. As a matter of fact, the self-styled head of his militia was just sent to prison here last week, F. Joe Holland, I think is his name. No, Cal Greenup was a fascinating, dangerous, armed man who had threatened to kill any law enforcement officer that came on his property. And that's why they didn't go arrest him.
Well, what was it like being a reporter on his property?
It was really one of the most interesting days of my life. I mean, we just drove up his driveway and walked out, and I just started interviewing him right off the bat. Took out my notebook, introduced myself as a reporter, and had a really amazing conversation with this guy who is, and I got a lot of insight into something I think is still very strong in this country, in this state in particular, but nationwide right now. This fundamentalist, so-called Christian, constitutionalist movement.
Well, it's really a vigilantism, isn't it? It's taking the law into your own hands, and it's really interesting to me that in this state that you can stop a carpenter, you know, in Bozeman, for speeding and end up in this armed confrontation, you know, with a guy who doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't have car registration, tells the cops that they suck, you know, and then the cops tell him that he has to appear in court. He doesn't appear in court. I mean, where you draw the line? I mean, do you not uphold any laws? Are there no laws that we agree upon as a culture anymore? Where are we at?
That's what. Well, no, these guys aren't even. They're not like radical libertarians. They're the people I've spoken to who are in this movement they really. I mean, they would, for instance, make it illegal for a person to practice their own sexual preference. I mean, they're not opposed to enforcing the law. They just have a different set of laws that they would like to see enforced. I think it's a form of kind of collective insanity. I mean, I honest to God think that it's way beyond politics.
Yeah,
It's
you're
something almost deeper than that.
Yeah, it is, right. You reported on the Montana Freeman. You went out to eastern Montana and reported
I didn't
on
personally, but one of our reporters, Kate Friedlander, and Carrie Leyrud, who was an ad rep,
Really?
But was very interested in doing this. They and Carrie took a camera and they bombed out to Jordan and brought back the best story I've ever read about what happened out there.
And then you reported on the people up in Noxon, the Montana militia?
That was really fun. One of my heroes in the alternative press flew into Montana. His name's Mark Cooper. And he was a writer for the Village Voice and writes now for The Nation and Spin and various magazines. Yeah, he flew into town and went up there and did an interview with the guys that run the militia of Montana. Fabulous story, hilarious, great story. We hung out with him for, and this was right after the bombing of the Murrah building, and yeah, that was a fun time.
So what kind of reputation did the Missoula Independent earn among alternative weeklies throughout the country if you have things like that happening where the Village Voice reporter calls you up and say, can you give me a hand on this story?
The Independent has a great reputation in the industry. People in the industry really like the Independent. I don't know exactly what it is, but part of it is that just an accident of geography. Here we are in Missoula, Montana, fascinating, interesting place. And people are interested in, you know, when we show up at a convention, when the folks from the Independent show up, a lot of people want to talk to us just because they want to say, what's it like in Montana?
You get on panels and stuff at the National Convention.
Right, that's another thing, is that I'm very active in that kind of stuff. I enjoy doing that, so I am often asked to participate on panels. Just this past spring, or last spring rather, went to the National Convention which happened in Salt Lake City, and was on a panel about environmental reporting. I have strong opinions about a lot of this stuff, and they're a little bit different from other people's opinions. So that has, I think, helped the Independent's reputation, just because I get involved in that kind of stuff. And Cushman, my partner, Eric Cushman, is a charming and funny guy, and people like him a lot too. So, and then our staff has always been, you know, people who
partied a lot, right?
And we party a lot when we're down. Yeah, that's another thing. We have that reputation as well.
Talk about the reputation that you had to your competition in Missoula, you know, to the other journalists in town, and talk about your reputation with the School of Journalism at the University of Montana. I'm sure you've had dialogues with those guys over the course of 6 years.
We have, or I have. I went to school here at the University of Montana. I went to the journalism program there after I hurt my back. I'd been a mechanic. After we did the Muse, I decided I really like doing this work, but I want to find out how to do it right. So, I enrolled at that school, and it was amazing. It was great. I think it's a fabulous school. Most of the people who were there when I was there, the professors, aren't there anymore. There's still a good, really strong team, I think, there. Although we don't communicate much. I've gotten to know Frank Allen a little bit, the dean. But there was always, in the beginning especially, there was kind of a hands-off attitude. The journalism school was reluctant to allow students to come to the Independent as interns. And I don't really understand why. I think it might be, I hate to speculate on people's motives, but it might have something to do with the fact that the J School is really plugged into the dailies in Montana, and has to be, and should be. It basically is a training ground for Montana journalists to work at Montana papers, and that's a good thing. And I think it's so focused on that the Independent kind of was outside its realm of what it thought was the right
Well, that's
thing.
funny to me, because there are a lot of students in that school. How many students at any one time are there in journalism at the university? 200?
Yeah.
So everyone's not a carbon copy of the Daily Reporter, you know. I mean, for you, for instance, always had an interest in alternative weeklies and alternative journalism. I'm sure there are a number of students up there who have that interest, and it seems a shame to me that they don't allow the students to choose.
Well, they do now.
They do now?
They do now, yeah. For the past several years they have. They've sent us a lot of their best students. Dan Nalen, Kate Friedlander, both came from the J School.
They were grad students, right?
He was a grad student, she was an undergrad. And Kate's now out in Oregon, working for the Portland Oregonian. She got a great job.
That's a big job, yeah.
Yeah, she got a great job.
So talk about relationships with the Missoulian crew.
Yeah, you know, I have a lot of friends at the Missoulian. I interned there. I freelanced there for years while I was in school. In between doing the Muse and doing the Independent, I worked at the Missoulian quite a bit. So personal relationships with the folks at the Missoulian have been almost entirely good. We have been very critical of the Missoulian, and I am very critical of daily journalism. I can't help it. I just think that, and I am very critical of the Missoulian in the way it covers politics, the way it covers crime. I just don't believe in that kind of journalism, and I've openly criticized it sometimes. But it's always been very respectful. We have not like slapped them around. A lot of the alternative papers really take great pleasure in slapping around bad guys. That's kind of what they exist for. I'm not so, I mean, I'll do it. If we find somebody doing something that they deserve to get slapped down, we will let them have it, but it's not my main passion. And so, as a result, we have a pretty good relationship with the Missoulian, I think.
Well, the Missoulian at least now has a local reporter who's reporting on city council issues.
They didn't for a while, right?
For a long time they didn't even do that, you know, because their audience was a lot bigger than Missoula.
That's what they perceived, and they didn't want to get stuck on that. They left a really big niche open for us, and we totally were happy to take that responsibility on. And we did. The Independent, I think, a lot of people in Missoula have for years considered it the place to find out what was really going on politically in this part of the state.
Well, what is going on politically in this part of the state? You know, one of the big things that you reported on a lot was the New Party and the New Party members of the city council. What, 5 out of 12 are
officially 4.
4?
I think.
No, I think there's a 5th one who joined.
Oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, who joined after being elected? That's right. Andy Sponseller did.
Right.
Right. You know, politics in Missoula has changed so much in the past 6 years, and I take personal credit for it. I think, you know, when we started the Independent, the city was run by a group of conservative Democrats. Al Sampson, we called them the Samsonites.
Big Boss Al.
Big Boss Al, a really good man, but not a political visionary. You know, I learned this phrase while we were covering this he was a cops and curbs Democrat. He was really only interested in providing resources to keep the streets okay and to keep the police.
He was a retired fireman.
Retired fireman. Again, I have so much respect for that man, but we disagreed with his leadership of the city council when he was the president of the council. And Missoula felt like it was a community that really wanted to turn into something. There was a lot of potential here for great things to happen, and the people on council were not interested in pursuing that with any rigor or vigor. And then a group of people showed up, almost one at a time, election after election. More progressives were able to come into the council. It's a true fact that we at the Independent were endorsing these progressive candidates. All the other media in town, well, the Missoulian for sure was not. They were endorsing the conservative candidates, and the progressive candidates won, which is why I'm pleased to take credit for the fact that Missoula has become a much more progressive community.
So it's going to be hard to leave.
Oh, God. I love this town, and it's really hard for me to leave. I'm also at a point in my life when I had been kind of nesting. I was really kind of settling into a lifestyle that involved being home, and I have a daughter in high school, as you know. And
Hold on, I'm not going to let you get away with that word, because I know that while you were working at the Independent, that the nest kind of disintegrated.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
Well, it didn't disintegrate. I moved out of it, and my wife and I did separate.
And what part did the Independent play in that?
I don't want to think about that, Jeff. It probably played a large part in that. I put a lot of myself into a job that was not paying any money, and that took way too many hours from my week. and that's
part of the price that you paid, wasn't it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, you know, coming from my perspective, when we were doing the Muse together, I was going through my divorce, and that was really hard. I didn't want to go through it again. And then when we started talking about the Independent, I saw a similar road, you know, highway happening there, and I backed off. I just couldn't commit to the depth that you committed and that Eric Cushman committed. I really admire you for that, for going into that process, knowing that you didn't have a financial package ready that was going to give you security and give you, you know, a cut and dried job.
Yeah, I don't know. It was probably a foolhardy act in some ways. It was definitely a risky thing to do.
Very courageous.
I guess courageous is one way to look at it. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I have to admit, sometimes I look at it and I think, you know, what in the Christ, why did I do this?
Yeah.
It was so hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And Eric Cushman and I, Eric just got married to a woman that he met at the Independent last weekend, and we were talking.
He met her last weekend and then he got married? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, my grammar, for a journalist, my grammar, did I do that? Okay. But we were talking about it, and of course we just went through this difficult time. At one point I said to him, you know, I'm really noticing that one of my overwhelming feelings right now is relief. It's like, we don't have to do this anymore.
Yeah.
That was really hard. And
yeah, to tell you the truth, I noticed that you were getting tired.
Yeah.
You're getting tired. Every week you had to come up with a newspaper, every week. How many pages? 24, 36 pages?
Somewhere in there.
Every week? Had to get advertisers. That's a big, big job. You can get fatigued doing that.
It was difficult.
In some ways,
it was fun. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Weekly newspaper is fun because you do get that, feeling of, you know, accomplishment. You get that rush where you get that relief every week. Okay, we're finally done. You put the paper to bed.
So I hear some mixed feelings now.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of radically ambivalent. I mean, it's not like I can't really decide which way to feel. It's that I feel really strongly both ways.
Are you an optimist?
You know, I don't think I am. A lot of my friends tell me I am. I optimistically, I guess, believed that a weekly newspaper could be built in Missoula, Montana, and a lot of my friends at the time accused me of being an optimist because I believed it was possible. But I feel like, well, wait a minute, look, it was possible. It turns out that it was true. So within the culture of the Independent, I was always the one that was pessimistic. I was always the one that saw danger and was trying to alert the staff to the fact that this is going to happen unless we do that. And whereas some of my partners were very much more optimistic. Cushman and I, Eric was, I felt, had a great ability to see things in a very rosy light, which made it a lot easier for the rest of us to do what we had to do, whereas I was always afraid or seeing danger. So
You made a good pair.
I think we made a good, we definitely made a good team. It was a good partnership.
Yeah. How about now, are you optimistic about going to Santa Cruz, and where do you hope to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
Well, immediately I hope to turn or help these two newspapers that I'm going to be working for to do what I think they ought to be doing. I'm trying to move journalism in this direction that I believe it needs to go in, and I think I'll be able to do that at these two newspapers. I'm going to have a great staff there. I've met several of the people I'm going to be working with, and they're really great people. Again, that turns out to be the thing that I really love most about this work, is the people I get to work with. In the future, I'm not really sure. I think plan A is that my daughter's going to come out for junior and senior year to live in Santa Cruz with me. I'm trying to talk my ex, I'm trying to talk Renee into moving out to California so we can be in the same neighborhood, and she's considering it. We're very close still, and so I see myself there for 3 or 4 years. Frankly, what I really would like to do is to run a weekly newspaper in Missoula, Montana. That would be my first choice. And if that opportunity ever presents itself again, then that's what I want to do. Ultimately, I'm going to take 3, 4, 5 years here and go do what I'm going to do in California, and I'm psyched about that. But
so if anybody out there has a couple of $1 million,
oh, it wouldn't take a couple of million. $500,000 would be
much?
plenty. $500,000 would be plenty.
$500,000 would-
$500,000 we could have the western part of the state in the bag. We'd be making money in 2 years.
Okay. Well, I got some money here.
Yeah.
So, well, we're winding down. How much time do we have left? 10 minutes? Okay.
Oh.
Well, what do you want to talk about for the last 10 minutes?
What about you, Jeff?
What about me? We're not interviewing me.
Where do you see yourself in a year?
Well, where I see myself in a year is, you know, being the king. The king of the world. I got a real royal complex here. No, I just got an agent. Did I tell you?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
For which book?
For a screenplay. Yeah.
For a screenplay?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Great.
So I'm really optimistic about that. That's you know, the door just opened a little bit. You know.
Wow.
Been trying to kick it down.
Where's your agent?
She's in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
She's a good one.
Oh, wow.
Good one. She's 60 years old. She's been around since she's been 18.
Wow.
So I'm real optimistic.
Neat.
So I hope to do more creative stuff, you know, in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So
That sounds fun.
yeah.
One of the, since we're being optimistic, one of the things I'm very excited about that I will be able to do now that I haven't been able to do for years, one of the reasons I started the Independent, as you know, is because I really wanted, as a writer, to be able to do a particular kind of journalism that I knew I couldn't do here unless we started our own newspaper. Curiously, I did not, very rarely, if ever, did I get to do that, because I had you know, a staff to manage, I had a million things to do, and it didn't allow me much time to do any writing. My new job, I'm going to be writing quite a bit. I'm going to be writing a cover story every 6
Oh,
weeks.
good. Oh, great.
And that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. But you didn't name the kind of writing that you like to do. I know that one of the things that you did over the course of the 6 years is cover the arts in Missoula. That was your beat. A lot of times it was.
Yeah.
Talk about that. How come Missoula has such a good arts community?
Boy, first of all, it definitely does. I mean, I am somebody who pays a lot of attention to the arts, and I've been in a lot of towns, and Missoula is exceptional in almost all the arts. I mean, from the punk rock bands that play at Jay's, which are incredible, I mean, they're great, to the visual artists that show at the museum and show in the galleries around town. I mean, the theater community in town, which wasn't very healthy 10 years ago in my mind. It wasn't great. It wasn't thriving, but it is now. You know, who knows? There's something happening in Missoula. This town is becoming and has become a really remarkable place. A lot of it, I think, has to do with where it is. I mean, you can't live in a place that's this beautiful and that's surrounded by so much healthy, wild country and not reflect that in the culture. And this place really has made an active effort to bring that, people here just bring that into their lives.
Well, one of the things that I see about the arts in Missoula is different from other places, that it doesn't get balled up in the economy too much, you know. If you've got a happening artist in New York, it has this whole thing about galleries and about making money and being the chosen one and being the elite as opposed to the struggling artists who are off to the side. One of the things about the arts in Missoula that I notice is that it has a purity to it. That people are doing the arts because they want to, not necessarily because of the rewards that are involved. I mean, if you can make a living in the arts in Missoula, you can make the living in the arts almost anywhere, and yet people are still going for that.
Right. I think the struggling artist thing bites. I mean, I don't think artists should have to struggle. I think it's a shame that our culture doesn't, and including Missoula, doesn't reward artists more. I think the best artists ought to make the kind of money that the best attorneys make, or the best doctors, or the best journalists.
Some of them do in Missoula.
Some do, but like other places, not very many and not very much. A very small handful. Missoula does okay. I mean, we do all right in terms of supporting the arts. We could do a lot better. One of the reasons that the Independent focused so much on the arts is that we wanted to see to help develop or help an atmosphere of support to develop more, I think it's something that the arts need.
Another thing I notice about artists in Missoula is that they're not shy about taking on the culture. That if an artist is a person who gives you a perspective to the mainstream culture, you know, that allows you to see things that you wouldn't have ordinarily seen because of his or her perspective. That happens a lot in Missoula. If you go into the galleries or the Laura's Art Museum in Missoula, you see that angle to the mainstream culture here.
Yeah.
You learn things through an artist's perspective, and
it's the best way. I mean, it's the best way to learn anything, I think. The arts, you know, literature, film, painting, provides the very best method of communication, I think. And I'm happy to do journalism, which is, I think, a step or two in that direction. But it definitely happens here. You know, we're doing this thing, and I always make fun of Missoula, and I say that the town is a little too much in love with itself. And then I find myself, I'm worse than anybody else when it comes to being in love with this place and singing its praises.
Well, there are big problems here as well. You know, if you send away for a packet of information about Missoula from the Chamber of Commerce or the Missoulian or the real estate people, you get all these glowing, glossy descriptions of Missoula. And I always think, well, there should be a couple of pictures of the winter, you know, of the air in the winter, and, you know, the idea of the big Blackfoot mine coming in and destroying the water quality. And, you know, there isn't that other perspective that this is an endangered culture here.
You wrote, in the first business plan for the Independent, you wrote that Missoula is a community that's at a crossroads, and that it could go in either direction right now. And I think that was a very accurate statement. Matter of fact, I think that I completely stole it and put it in the first editorial in that issue right there.
Now you need to pay me for it.
Right. You got an issue about this getting paid for your work thing, don't you? Didn't you get that check?
It's in the mail.
But I think it's still true. I think Missoula still is. You're right. I mean, if they put that gold mine up in the Blackfoot, this community is going to change dramatically. There's a lot of things that could happen here that would hurt this place.
You want to talk about the growth issues? Because, you know, supporting a weekly newspaper in Missoula is a growth issue. You have to have enough people here to be able to purchase not purchase the paper, but to read the paper for advertisers to want to advertise.
Well, to have a healthy economy. I mean, I'm not a no-growth advocate in Missoula, and there are people who have opinions about my position on that, or that the position the Independent has taken on that. I do believe that Missoula could use some economic growth badly. I'd like I say, I think the struggling artist thing bites. I think that the fact that so many people with master's degrees in this town are working as waiters is not good for this community. I think that economic development in this community is crucial, and I think that growth is a part of that, but it's just the way it happens and where it happens. We have to be really careful.
That's where I'm at, too. You know, if businesses won't come to Missoula because of the air, or because of the water, or because of the traffic, or because of the subdivisions, that's a growth issue. And we need to deal with those issues in order to attract the kinds of businesses that we want here.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's this laissez-faire attitude that you can build 100 houses a year for 20 years up Miller Creek, and that's growth. And actually, that's counter-growth. Because if a business comes in because the air is so polluted and says, I'm not going to go there, I'm going to go to Bozeman, or I'm going to go, Boise, or wherever, that works against us.
Right. I think because of the position that I've been in for the past 6 years, I find myself advocating for growth, just because the circle I run in, that's something I think needs to be said. But it's for intelligent growth. I think, for instance, I'm very pleased to see McGrath and other folks in the council now working hard on building low-income housing. So building housing is something that the knee-jerk liberal response is no more housing. You know, gut shoot them at the border, or else, you know, let's protect the purity, integrity, and the open space. But I think it's very wise for the progressive community of Missoula to be working really hard to develop with developers, with people who are we can't look at developers as the enemy. These are the people that will build the housing that we need. We can't look at the business community as the enemy. It's a huge mistake to do that. Instead, what we need to do is to work respectfully with these people to try to make sure that what we want to see happen in this community is what happens.
Well, I think we need to knock a few heads once in a while, too. I mean, I think the real estate industry is out of control in Missoula, myself. You know, that they want the rents as high as possible. They want
Of course they
as
do.
many new homes as possible on the outskirts, and that's archaic thinking. That's not progressive thinking.
I agree
at
with you.
all.
I'm not certain, though, that that the entire real estate community or the entire development community feels that way. I think
You're right.
I think we would be surprised to find that a lot of people in those industries would agree with us, would agree with you completely about protecting the air for their own reasons, which may not be exactly the same as yours
Right,
or mine,
right.
but they're valid and we can work with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things about Missoula, we've got 2 minutes left. One of the things about Missoula is that it's political. This is a very political
Thank God.
community.
Yeah.
Having lived in Bozeman for a while, where it's apolitical, it was real interesting to come back here. And you know, I always said that in Missoula, if one person turned over a rock, another person would be over on one shoulder saying, "Well, you shouldn't turn over any rocks. You should just leave them alone." And then another person would be over on the other shoulder saying, "You turned over the wrong rock." You know.
Yeah, can't win.
So talk about accomplishment. Talk about what you think the Independent meant as we end this interview.
You know, I think that what we wanted to do, what we set out to do, was to try to capture and reflect a little bit what this community is about in many ways, in all of its facets, and I think we succeeded in doing that to a large extent. I think that one of the reasons that people around the country like the Independent is because it's got Missoula in it, and I think we did that. So I guess that feels like an accomplishment. That's what we set out to do, and I guess we did it.
Well, speaking for everyone, and I mean everyone.
Well, you're king. You can do that. Yeah.
I'm a king. Yeah. I want to thank you for your hard work and your dedication to that idea.
Well, thanks, sir.
It was really important. It was as important the last issue that you published as it was the first issue, and that consistency was really an accomplishment. And we all need to thank you for the time and the effort and the energy and the talent that you brought to that newspaper. And we're going to miss you. Now I'm going to miss you personally, having you around, bumping into you on the street, you know, calling you and ragging you all the time. And you know, and I hope you have space on your floor, and so that we can come and.
I do want to invite everyone to come visit me in Santa Cruz. I'm gonna have a spare bedroom, so everyone's welcome.
And I think that idea of you know, trying it again is a really good idea. And I'm glad that you have a chance to try something new for a while. And get into different space for a while. I think that's important.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
And thanks for coming in and talking before you left.
It was kind of fun.
Right.
So we're going to go through and edit, right? We get to edit out all the bad stuff?
No. This isn't live, but it's going to go on as is.
Oh, wow.
So it's history now. It's
Okay.
history. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff.
Are we about done? The interview? Okay. Are you going to go to the music? Well, I guess I'm supposed to sign off now. So I'm going to tell you that this is one of 6 interviews that I'm doing this spring. And the other interviewees include Joel Rogers, who's the founder and chair of the New Party, and Gene Bernofsky, a wild filmmaker from Missoula, Laura Millen, who's the director of the Art Museum. A few other people we'll throw in as well. So thanks a lot for joining us.